Deleted Peppa Pig episode George's Dinosaur, which was never showed on TV. When George was very little, he never parted with his green dinosaur. He slept with it, ate next to it, went for walks with it, took it into the bath, and even tried to feed it porridge. "Dinosaur," he would happily shout every day. Sometimes Peppa would tease him. "You're such a baby, always clinging to your toy." But George would only frown and hug the dinosaur even tighter. Years passed. George grew up. He was too old to sleep with toys now. He started playing football, building with blocks, and got into using his tablet. The dinosaur began to annoy him. It lay forgotten on the floor while George played on his tablet. One day, he threw the dinosaur into the trash bin outside. That night, George woke up. The room was quiet, but something felt off. He felt a chill. Creak, creak. A familiar shape slipped out of the shadows. Green, torn seams, one eye dangled from a thread. "Dino, saw," it rasped. George trembled. You're just a toy." "You left me," the dinosaur croaked. "We were always together." Deleted Peppa Pig episode Abandoned Pool, which was never showed on TV. One hot and stuffy day, the pig family decided to go to a new swimming pool out of town. "There's no one here," Daddy Pig said cheerfully, looking at the empty pool area. "Lucky us," smiled Mummy Pig. "We'll have the place to ourselves." "Yay!" shouted Peppa. The pool was small but deep. The water, however, was unusually dark, almost black, smooth like glass. It smelled like damp metal. "What strange water," said Mummy. "Probably just the shadow from the trees." Daddy waved it off. "Peppa, George, go take a closer look." George came up first. He crouched down and carefully touched the water with his hoof. And then the water splashed. Something grabbed George's arm and pulled him under. Mummy screamed and Daddy Pig jumped in after him. He vanished into the darkness. 1 second, 2, 5. Silence. Mummy Pig clutched Peppa. "What's happening? What's down there?" And then the water began to tremble. In the center of the pool, a fin rose up, sharp, gray. "There's someone there," whispered Peppa. "That's not Daddy." "Back, get back," Mummy Pig screamed. They ran to the car. It started on the first try. They drove away. But since that day, Peppa can't sleep. Sometimes she sees black water in the bathroom sink. And one morning, there was a tiny hoof lying in the basin, wet, with white bite marks. Deleted Peppa Pig episode The Guest at the Door, which was never showed on TV. One evening, Peppa was left home alone. Mummy and Daddy had gone into town for shopping, and George was sleeping in his crib. The house was quiet, too quiet. Bang, bang, bang. Someone knocked at the door. Peppa flinched. She tiptoed to the door. "Who's there?" "It's me, Peppa. Open up, granddaughter." The voice was familiar but muffled, distant. She opened the door. Standing on the doorstep was Grandpa Pig, soaked, his face pale as if the rain had washed it clean. His clothes were the very ones he was buried in 3 years ago. "Gee, Grandpa," Peppa whispered, "but you're... Don't be afraid, I just came to visit." He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. He stepped inside. Water dripped from him onto the floor. "Put the kettle on, granddaughter. I'm cold." But while Peppa was boiling the water, she heard a rasping noise from the living room. He was standing there, changing. His skin was peeling off like soaked fabric. His arms stretched unnaturally. His eyes had turned black. His face had grown long, fish-like. From his mouth came a gurgle. "You forgot me, but I remembered you every single day." Under the water, Peppa screamed and ran to the door, but the lock wouldn't budge. Behind her, Grandpa was no longer Grandpa. He was something else, wet, trembling, with rotting seaweed on his shoulders. He reached out. "Come with me. It's deep and quiet." When her parents returned, the house was empty. Only footprints, wet ones, leading to the bathroom. And on the mirror, something was written. "Granddaughter is with me. Don't miss her." Deleted Peppa Pig episode, "Don't Step in the Puddle," which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. Peppa once loved jumping in muddy puddles. It was her favorite thing to do. But one day, everything changed. In an episode no one ever saw on TV, it was pouring rain. Peppa woke up alone. George was gone, and so were her parents. Outside, everything was flooded. The yard was drowning in strange purple puddles, deeper than usual, far too deep. Peppa stepped outside, let out a happy snort, and jumped into the first puddle. But instead of a cheerful splash, there was a dull, sucking sound. The puddle pulled her body down deeper. Hee, that's not funny," Peppa said. "Let go." But the puddle only pulled harder. Suddenly, a face rose from the water. It looked like hers, but with no eyes and a stretched mouth. It spoke. "One jump, and you stay forever." Shadows began rising from the puddle. First Daddy, then George. "Jump with us, Peppa. We're family." The puddle dragged her even deeper, and then she began to change into a monster. The last thing she saw was the sky. Since then, in every episode, if you look closely at the puddles, you can see a face. And if a child stares at the screen too long, tiny reflections appear in their eyes too. Small, wet, and calling them to jump. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, "Snouts for Breakfast," which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. One day, Daddy Pig got up before dawn. He wanted to surprise the family, to prepare a perfect breakfast like in the best hotels. He quietly tiptoed to the kitchen, tied on his apron, took out a frying pan and whispered, "Today will be perfect." A little later, Peppa woke up. The room was strangely quiet, as if the world was holding its breath. She stretched, yawned, and suddenly felt something terrible. "My snout!" She ran to George's room. He was sitting in bed, trembling, his face smooth, like a doll's. "Peppa, I can't smell my dinosaur." Mummy Pig came out of the bedroom. Her eyes were full of horror. What is happening?" On the stove, a frying pan was sizzling. Inside it, 4 snouts, pink, crackling, with thin golden brown edges. And next to it stood Daddy Pig. On his face was a brand new snout, pink and carefully sewn on with thick black thread. He smiled. "Breakfast is ready, family." Deleted Peppa Pig episode, "The Painting in the Basement," which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. One day, while playing with her toys, Peppa heard a strange sound coming from below. From the basement, creak, scrape, soft tapping. "Probably just the wind," she whispered, but her heart pounded louder. Curiosity overcame fear. Peppa tiptoed down the stairs and, with a trembling hoof, opened the basement door. Darkness, cold, Dust swirled in the air, and in the corner of the room hung a painting. On it was a pig, tall, grimy, eerie, armless. Peppa gasped and ran upstairs. "Mummy, there's, in the basement, an armless pig. He's in a painting." "What painting, Peppa? Come on, show me." They both went down together, but now the painting was empty. "He was there, I swear. Maybe you just..." And then a sound came from behind them. They turned around sharply and saw the same armless pig. But now, he had hundreds of arms. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, Peppa Pig's Cursed Christmas, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. On Christmas Eve, Peppa's family was getting ready for the holiday. They decorated the tree, baked cookies, and left treats for Santa. But at night, exactly at 3:33, the clock started ticking backward, and Peppa woke up from a strange chill. George was standing by the window, whispering, "Santa came, but he's different." Something was in the yard, tall in a red cloak, with claws and hollow eyes. It was the spirit of Christmas, to whom Grandpa Pig had promised one perfect holiday in exchange for the family many years ago. Now it had come to collect the debt. Mummy and Daddy vanished, leaving only shadows on the walls. Frost and whispers crept from the fireplace. The spirit opened its sack and said, "You are part of Christmas, forever." By morning, the house was empty. Only the milk and a note stood by the fireplace. "Thank you for a delicious holiday." Deleted Peppa Pig episode, Full Moon in the Forest, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. One day, the pig family decided to go on a joint picnic with the wolf family. In the morning, Daddy Pig called his best friend and shared the idea. They immediately agreed, and both families set off for the countryside. "Look at this beautiful forest, the perfect place. Fresh air, the scent of the woods," said Daddy Pig. "We're so glad you invited us. It's nice to finally get out into nature," added Mummy Wolf. The men lit a campfire. Mummy Wolf served homemade pastries, and the wolf children played tag. But when the sun disappeared behind the trees, the atmosphere changed. The wind grew sharp. The temperature dropped. Somewhere in the distance, a lonely creature howled. "It's just a fox," said Daddy Wolf, but his eyes glinted with a strange light. "Let's stay the night. We brought tents," suggested Mummy Wolf. "It'll be so fun under the full moon." Mummy Pig hesitated, then nodded. At 12:03 a.m., Peppa woke up to rustling sounds. Peeking through a slit in the tent, she saw the silhouettes of the wolves. They were standing with their backs turned, heads lifted to the sky. Their bodies twitched, stretched, bones cracked. Then came the howl, long, ravenous. Daddy Pig burst out of the tent. "What the..." But he didn't get to finish. A figure lunged from the darkness and sank its teeth into his neck. "Thanks for the dinner and the warm welcome," whispered the head of the wolf family.